The following is a special production of the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Welcome to TUF Enough, a recap and breakdown show from the MMA Outsiders following every episode of The Ultimate Fighter Season 31, Team McGregor versus Team Chandler. And now, here are your hosts, Tom Albano and Zain Bando.
Yes, it's episode number 3 of TUF Enough. We hope you've enjoyed this week's edition of The Ultimate Fighter, Team McGregor versus Team Chandler. I'm Tom Albano, that's Zain Bando as always. Zain, as far as my enjoyment, as far as my thoughts on this episode, I thought this episode, Zain, I have to admit, was quite mid.
Yeah, this episode, without a doubt, was the least exciting of the bunch for sure, as we are quickly jumping out to an early start on the Ultimate Fighter. Feels like it's going faster than we had originally anticipated. For those who don't know, this is obviously our review show for the Ultimate Fighter. So if you have yet to watch episode 3, which for those of you who purchased UFC 289, you got early access to. For those who have not, be sure to jump off this stream and watch the episode before you do. But before we get into all of the recapping, that was this week's episode between Austin Hubbard and Aaron McKenzie. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the MMA Outsiders and the Empty the Bench Podcast Network so you can get everything Tough Enough related and, of course, the main flagship show on the network, the MMA Outsiders. I'm Zain Bando. You can find my work over at bjpen.com. I'm a staff writer there. And you can find Tom's work over at Fansided MMA. Tom, you kind of alluded to it. You kind of alluded to it earlier in the stream here just a couple of minutes ago. This episode was kind of mad. Can we kind of break down what were the happenings in episode 3 and what kind of made it what it was?
Yeah, for certain. So, Zain, it seemed like we very quickly went into the different backstories of the two fighters that are partaking in this week's fight, that being Aaron McKenzie from Team McGregor, the prospects, and Austin Hubbard from Team Chandler, the veterans. So just to get into Aaron McKenzie's backstory a little bit, Zain, obviously success on the regional scene, LFA champion, and also just detailing, Zain, some of his little backstory and his success, and the fact that he has this relationship with his wife, and he's very, very family oriented, it seemed, from what the episode gave off.
Oh yeah, not only family oriented, but someone who, seemed very passionate about where he came from, and just also just being very loyal to his friends. It seems like everyone around him has been super supportive of his MMA career and what he wants to do. So it's just very good to see that he had his support system around him, no matter how successful or unsuccessful he is in each of his fights, and just knowing that this is the dream he's wanted to pursue for quite a bit, and that was cool to see.
For certain. And then on the other side, you had Austin Hubbard. You had the details then about how he's 31, his success in the UFC because he went, I think, 3-4 in his first stint in the promotion. We saw the footage then of him working alongside his wife, and he's another one then that where basically a lot of emphasis on his roots, and just like the other veterans that we've seen on this show, then a lot of emphasis on getting that second chance. Even Dana stated that Austin has the talent, it seems, to succeed in the UFC. He just didn't, the break didn't come the first time around, and the hope is that maybe the break will come this second time around through TUF.
Oh yeah, and Austin Hubbard is someone that I've been high on for quite some time. even dating back to his Contender Series days. So to see him get another chance is very cool, and I think he is someone that has a lot of potential. And we're going to get to it in just a second, but I think he really showed his potential in this fight against McKenzie, particularly this week.
For certain. But yeah, there was a lot of backstory, Zan, this week. A lot of backstory with the two fighters. A lot of showcasing the fighters getting together and watching fights together. Kind of this
Yep.
little communal kind of gathering. Meanwhile, especially around Team McGregor, as you know, they're away from their families and such. Uh, I think they detailed either Mackenzie or Hubbard. One of them had lost their brother, and so you got to see basically. I think one of the two also had a, was it a nephew or something? I think it was a nephew who, during the one of the video calls that they showed on the episode, detailing, when they were detailing their family. It's like, oh, I'm sad that you have to fight, but it's just it
Yeah,
seemed like a lot of family focus.
yeah, very similar to last week's episode of Will, where you also had a fellow family member say the same thing. I thought that was kind of interesting.
For certain. Then we did have a little bit of Conor, because Zan, of course, we're gonna have Conor. It seems like, Zan, that's the whole emphasis on this season, is Conor. A Conor thing that does not happen inside the cage. We had an interaction. So Conor got to meet a young figure artist. His name is Samuel Romero, young figure artist, and basically with Romero, what he does is that he takes the body parts of certain wrestling action figures and basically places Conor's head on them and kind of details, makes it into a makeshift Conor McGregor action figure. So you had one where you had Conor's head on, I think it was either the body or the legs or both of Brock Lesnar, like a WWE Brock Lesnar action figure. I could recognize one of them as, it's one where Conor's head is on it's a Conor McGregor action figure with a pink suit jacket, has money in his hand. I could tell from the action figure and the body proportions somehow that had to be a Vince McMahon action figure. So there was just quite a lot of cool action figures, custom action figures, I should be specific, that Samuel Romero made. And Conor paid Samuel handsomely for a couple of his pieces of work. From what I could count, $1,200.
Yeah, Samuel Romero looked very mesmerized when he got the money. Did he not?
I mean, wouldn't you be?
Oh yeah, I mean, with it being from Conor McGregor, my first thought would be, is this even real? Like, is this even remotely real? Like, am I actually getting money from Conor McGregor right now? So I totally understood his sentiment in that regard, without a doubt.
Yeah, plus that's, just even meeting Conor McGregor, I think, would be mesmerizing enough. So I feel happy for that kid. And, Conor is capable of some good things. However, I think that's the only real good thing he did on this episode, which I will detail a little more as we get into the fight between Austin Hubbard and Aaron McKenzie.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So let's get into that fight right now. So, Zan, the veterans, Team Chandler, 3-0. Austin Hubbard defeats Aaron McKenzie. This one actually goes the distance, goes to a unanimous decision. There was no third round needed. Austin Hubbard won both rounds on the judges' scorecards. And I think, Zan, it was kind of not the most exciting kind of fight, but what you had was, you had Aaron McKenzie. It seemed like Conor and Owen Roddy wanted him to work within the clinch, but it seemed like Austin Hubbard was always able to take him down, and Austin Hubbard had complete control on the ground, even busting him open late in the first round and putting Aaron McKenzie in great danger. I think, it had Austin Hubbard had some more time in that first round after busting McKenzie open, that could have led to a finish.
Yeah, 100%. This fight looked extremely one-sided from the second the fight started until it was over. Hubbard was just 2 steps ahead of McKenzie the whole fight. Used his jab well, used his wrestling well, hurt him a couple of times. He just seemed like the fresher, quicker fighter and someone who really, really wanted to just make a statement. And although the fight did not end in a finish, I think he certainly did that. I think for McKenzie's side, though, he is still relatively young. But I think it's one of those fights where he really needs to learn to overcome adversity because I don't think he did a good job of doing that in this fight.
No, Hubbard just seemed to have all the control, and Hubbard just seemed to Hubbard seemed to have the confidence. Hubbard, as you said, seemed to have the ability to constantly adjust, whereas McKenzie, I mean, maybe you can point to the fact that he is still a prospect. He is still a developing fighter with no UFC experience. Hubbard was able to constantly make adjustments. One thing I also did note, San, what I said about Conor before, was that we didn't really see too much. So Conor would give advice, but he would be on the side of the cage, away from the other fighters and away from the corner, so that between rounds, all you had, Zan, was you didn't even have Conor yelling so much as you had Owen Roddy giving the advice to Aaron McKenzie. Meanwhile, you had just Conor giving like running commentary on the side when things were going well, when things weren't going well. Meanwhile, Michael Chandler, he's there for the walkout with Austin Hubbard. He's there in the corner with Austin Hubbard giving advice. And even on the way back, Zan, even on the way back to the locker room from the cage, you had Austin Hubbard and Michael Chandler walking side by side, Aaron McKenzie not walking too far behind them, and no Conor to be found.
Yeah, Connor's invisibility on this season so far is very noticeable, and it's not like it's turning into a sideshow, but it's very much something that I think you and I can both agree that other coaches would not be able to get away with.
No, absolutely not. I mean, and that's the question. I mean, Zan, I know you mentioned sideshow, not a sideshow, but I mean, it does play into something that we did mention last week, is that the Connor was going to be a very big focus on this show. But again, it goes to that. I mean, it goes to that comparison I made, Zan, where it seems like more and more this is becoming one of those things like a season 3 of Tough, where you have Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, and it's pretty clear one person, one fighter, cares a lot more about the coaching and is putting more into the coaching than the other.
Yeah, 100%. Very solid comparison there. And after watching this fight, and we'll get into what the next fight is going to be for next week in a little bit, but I'm starting to come to the conclusion that Chandler is well on their way to a sweep of this first round with relative ease. I mean, no matter what McGregor's team tries, they seem to always be a step behind, and nothing seems to go right. And this was another example of it.
And you don't have, and even Dana at one point was questioned if Conor can basically rally the troops. And truthfully, I don't know if he can. I
No, I
really
don't.
don't know. And it's Zan. I,
No, I don't know if he can either.
and it goes to also what we were talking about when we were first discussing Tough back on, I think it was episode 40. Yeah, it was episode 40 because it was right before the premiere. I mean, you look at that coaching roster and you have Kavanaugh and you have Owen Roddy, and Connor, but really that's just it for the prospects. And that, for guys who are so young and guys that are, have potentially bright futures, you need more than just those three guys. No disrespect to John Kavanaugh, no disrespect to Owen Roddy, and even no disrespect to Conor McGregor. Now, Conor can teach them, Zan, some interesting things that maybe others can't, about having a brand, about having a persona, and fight hype and such. But it seems to me, Zan, that it seems like more of Chandler is doing more with his fighters. Meanwhile, sometimes, and I think you even said it last week of episode 2, focus on, during the training sessions for Team McGregor, is the focus on Conor as he's getting ready for what we think is this fight with Chandler, which right now we're saying maybe December 16th.
Yeah, I mean that's what's going around right now, but obviously there's no movement on that. So it's very interesting to see like what we're actually leading up to, and if we're leading up to anything at all. I mean, I don't know. It's been an interesting season so far, to say the least.
For sure. By the way, Aaron McKenzie was transported to the hospital for a CT scan. Hopefully, by the time next week we see episode 4, hopefully everything comes out okay. He did look in his post-fight interviews, and you could see around his right eye, complete swelling, complete black and blue. So this is one of those cases where better safe than sorry, but hopefully for Aaron McKenzie that this is just a little, slip in the road. But at the same time, Zan, it goes to what I said last week. The fact that Austin Hubbard beat Aaron McKenzie, I mean, unless somehow, some way, Timur Valiev getting into next week's fight already Trevor Wells can beat Timur Valiev. I think, as Zan, I agree, all the momentum is on Team Chandler's side. And at this point, there's just going to be absolute problems, and there could very well potentially be a sweep, as I mentioned, next week. So the Trevor Wells Timur Valiev fight, which was supposed to happen episode 2, delayed because of a little something that happened to Trevor Wells. Slips my mind what had happened to him. He had some sort of
Oh,
infection or something.
he had like a little contusion mark like on his face, and it was very bizarre. I think is what it was.
Yeah, the state athletic commission basically would not let Trevor Wells fight because of the contusion around his eye, medically unfit to compete. That's why we got the cold sore. That's what it was. It was a cold sore.
Oh, yeah, that's
Which
right.
led us to Cody Gibson versus Mando Gutierrez. But Zan, we do have Wells versus Valiev next week. Again, my thoughts are the same, Zan, that I'm really disappointed. This could be a fight of the season, but I'm also really disappointed. That means that either Wells or Valiev, two guys who I picked to potentially win this bantamweight tournament, one of them is going to be eliminated in the first round.
Yeah, as you may remember, I picked Valiev to go all the way, so I'm still sticking with my prediction. I just think he's the better fighter. I think he'll be too fast for Trevor, and I think he finishes him early in the first round.
I don't know if I can go with a first round finish. I'm going to hope for at least late second. If not, it goes to the scorecards. I want a more entertaining fight. But Zan, the thing that's scaring me a little and, tempting me to go over to your side a bit is what we just talked about, that Team Chandler just seems to be more ready. And not just Team Chandler, but just Michael Chandler seems to be more ready and more into this than Conor McGregor is, which it sucks for somebody like Trevor Wells.
I think so too, and I think it's also because Chandler is competing with a chip on his shoulder, knowing that he's not the star of the show that McGregor is. So he's trying to steal the thunder, and honestly, who could blame him, right? So, I mean, as long as he's successful, it only builds his star power even more for a potential fight. So he should be very proud of what he's done so far, in my opinion.
I was gonna say, and Zen, who's to say that he hasn't started to steal some of that thunder already? I mean, his team is 3-0. If you knock out the other big prospect on this list in Trevor Wells with your own big prospect in Timur Valiev, I shouldn't say prospect. I mean, he's a veteran, but Timur Valiev, I mean, that just completely sends a statement. And I think, Zan, Trevor Wells is probably the biggest obstacle on Team McGregor still left to a potential, as you alluded to before, sweep. of Team Chandler. I mean, he'll be halfway home next week if Valiev gets the win. The other thing to watch out for, though, as they alluded to in the teaser at the end for episode 4, they are having a very big controversy, a very big discussion next week about the weight cut. Team Chandler, Michael Chandler, has proposed that the fight is held at featherweight next week at 145 because both men had already cut weight, weighed in. It was on the day of the exhibition fight between Valiev and Wells that the commission scrapped the fight. It seemed like in the trailer, though, that Team McGregor wants them to both men to cut weight again and weigh it at 135 again.
I think they're gonna do some sort of coin flip or something to figure it out. I think it's the only fair thing to do. I don't think you can pick sides there in that. Although I do think it should be a catch weight. What do I know?
Would you? Well, I'm on the catch weight side too, Zan. Would you more say maybe a 140-pound catch weight instead of a 145?
I'd be okay with that.
I would be okay with that too. Now, we saw the little argument that was going on between Team Chandler, Team McGregor over this thing. Do you think, Zan, next week, especially all the circumstances considered, the chip on the shoulder, the sweep that Team Chandler is on thus far, do you think next week something's going to blow over between McGregor and Chandler?
Oh yeah, this could be the week where we see the new Dana White meme. So you never know.
I can't wait for the episode where that actually airs of him running into the cage like, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Yeah. For sure.
Also something to note for next week, by the way. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to be a guest star on the episode. He's gonna appear as a guest coach for Team McGregor, and I guess Zan, he somebody who's very good with his striking, points fighting system, somebody very good with his reach. So, I mean, some potential help there for Team McGregor, but I also do think they're going to need a little more than just Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, they're going to need a little bit more than that, but at least he can help show the McGregor team his karate base and see how they can use it in their respective fights moving forward. So it's definitely a plus, for sure.
For sure. They definitely could use some outside help outside of Conor. And that pretty much is going to do it for this edition of Tough Enough, Zan. Hopefully next week the momentum kicks back up a little. You got Wells and Valiev, which is a highly anticipated fight I'm looking forward to. You've got the fact that we could have some potential blowover, some arguing, some teasing over the 135, 145 whole catchweight kind of debate. I am hoping, Zan, that, as I kind of alluded to, the momentum picks back up next week. It's not as meh and mid as this week was.
Yeah, I hope so too, which probably means that the fight's going to end in some sort of controversy, and we don't know who's going to win, but we know it's going to be a shit show. That's what we know.
And unfortunately, Zan, a shit show sounds much better than the kind of episodes we've been having the last couple of weeks. All right.
For sure.
Before we get out of here, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. If you are watching on our Facebook and Twitter feeds, hit the like, hit the retweet, hit the follow buttons so you get all our different tweets, all our different social media posts, when we go live, etc. Make sure to follow us across social media at MMA Outsiders ETB. Make Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure to follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That is Zain Bando. You can find his work over at bjpen.com. Bellator Rankings Committee member, will be live in Chicago for Bellator 297 this week, and a new graduate of Northwestern University Master's in Journalism program. So, Zain, congratulations again, because life just seems to be really treating you very well.
Thank you. Life could not be better, and I'm very much looking forward to covering my second Bellator event as a member of the media. As you guys know, and have been following me for a long time, I've been to several as a fan, but now I'm turning in my fan card and being a member of the media for these, or at least I would assume moving forward. So I'm glad to be back, boots on the ground in Chicago for what should be one of the biggest Bellator events, not just of the year, but in promotional history. And of course, you can follow me at Bando99 everywhere on all social media platforms, particularly my most active ones being Instagram and Twitter. And thanks again for the congratulations. It's truly awesome to be part of two graduating classes for two Big Ten schools in the last 5 years. So it's very very cool, and it just goes to show that I really do love I really do love what I do, and this is more just an extension of it. So I want to personally thank you Nick, and the rest of the ETB crew for shouting me out the other day. It was very very special to me, and I'm glad that we're able to do this every week, and we're able to pursue our passion for the sport of mixed martial arts. And yeah, this has definitely been a great extension for sure. So thank you for the kind words.
Of course, San, of course. And I'm Tom Albano. You can find my work over at Fansided MMA. Follow me on Twitter at Thomas J. Albano. And again, I am a new writer and recapper for PFL. So I'm helping out with their website. I started this past week with PFL 4. Great night of fights. Major upset, which, by the way, speaking of, if you missed for our most recent episode that went up this morning, go check it out now on YouTube. Go check it out on all our audio only platforms, Acast, Spotify, and more. And we will be with you for another edition of both the MMA Outsiders and another edition of Tough Enough next week. Same time, same place. So that is Zan. I'm Tom. Zan, is there something you want to end on?
We just wanted to say thank you again for tuning in. It's tough enough. It's been a very interesting and very fun time so far doing this show, and we hope that you continue to enjoy all the episodes that come about of The Ultimate Fighter. And before we get out of here, as we say on our main flagship program, be Joe Piper.
Be Joe Piper. Take care, everybody.
Take care.